it was not time to go meet her. School was still in session. I walked the whole way 100 feet from the school. My legs were too tired to take another step, and I wished my mother would come and get me. And lo and behold, she came driving up from the facing direction, and I thanked God I did not thank my mother. Instead, I said, "What's the idea of having me walk all this way?" And as I committed that sin, I was later to learn the devil was watching. I have two godfathers. My namesake, Arthur Stephos, had diabetes and was afraid he would drop me at my baptism, so my uncle Plato married me. My godfather, Arthur Stephos, was in love with a girl, and somehow he ended up without her and spent the rest of his life waiting for her. He was an accountant. He bought my family a grave plot beside his and the Hearst family. It will be mentioned later, it was I who eventually got Patty Hearst freed from prison. My uncle Plato was like me. He decided to go to France and learn to be a French teacher. He was Greek from Italy. His plan was to go to Turkey and teach the nobles' children about democracy while he was supposed to be teaching French. He did this, and eventually he made friends with the Sultan's son, who warned him when he was placed on an execution list. He left straight away, got his family in Mytilene, and came to the U.S. Today, Turkey is a democracy. Greeks remember him for publishing Atlantis newspaper, the first Greek language paper in the U.S. My papu was the editor of the Greek Herald, Ethnikos Kyriakai, then became the principal of Greek Orthodox parochial school in New York. He was decorated twice by the King of Greece, once for words to an anthem, Amitheia, and for his work with the church. My father was president of our church community while I was in kindergarten. Before that, I got a hernia. I went to bed with it. I was just numb, and I could not go to the bathroom. The next day, I realized there was something wrong and told my mother, but she is very cheap and said we would see in a day or two. So I went to my father, and he said it was a hernia, that we have been expecting it. The doctor told him I had weak hernia muscles. He had a hernia mowing his parents' lawn the day he got back from the army. He was in the army for 4 years during World War II. They made no secret that he was a coward. They made him a corporal and had him teaching field phone repair to the troops at the New Jersey base. He accompanied Bishop Jacobus as a military escort to Greece after the Germans were repelled to find out what damage was done and what the church could do to help. He had a big scar from his hernia operation and wanted me to look good for my future wife. So a plastic surgeon flew in from California to assist my pediatrician, who was also a neighbor, street down and up. My father gave me a fishing pole as a get-well gift and a pair of kids' sneakers. I accidentally hit the kid in the neighboring crib, so they took it away from me. The nurse put Vaseline on my wound, which she was told not to do. So there is a faint, thin line of lighter-colored skin. Still no one could tell I had an operation if I did not tell them. And if I get a tan there, it's not visible. We went fishing a week after the operation. We rented a boat near Soho, Norwalk, where the Greek Orthodox Church used to rent an old congregational church, which we did not fit in. So the TV crews would come to film us standing outside the church on Greek Easter. They have a new building now, which my father found the architect and plans for. He also was one of the 4 co-signers for the priest's adjoining residence. I made a friend down the street from me. He was 3 and I was 4 years old. We would watch Speed Racer at my house. We called the show Supercar and would sing along to the theme. I had a crush on Trixie. Unlike the movie, Trixie was Speed Racer's sister in the cartoon and seemed like she needed a friend like me. My friend was afraid of trees, and I was walking him home and the wind started to blow, which really frightened him. He said, "Arthur, would you hold my hand? I'm scared, and the wind is starting to blow. I said, I don't need to hold your hand, not wanting to encourage his fear. Oh, please, won't you hold my hand? I took his hand and mocked him by singing, won't you hold my hand? Won't you please hold my hand? Apparently, all the neighbors were watching, and they started saying I was gay. That was not the term for it then, at least not in my neighborhood. The next day, a man took hold of my wrist when I was walking home from my friend's house. He said, we are going to stop you from turning your friend into a homosexual. What's that? It's a guy who wants to marry another guy. Well, I'm not like that. I didn't think so after meeting your dad, but that's what we're going to tell the people moving across the street from you. I'm going to give you this shot. See, and you won't remember who your friend is. You'll think their kid is your friend. They don't care. She thinks her kid is a homo anyway. He injected me with the drug. It did something to my ability to remember names and made me auditory, living amongst daydreams. I named the lady next door to me across from the field we had owned the option on, the tulip lady. I named the people to the east and right of my new friend, the cuckoo clock lady, because she had a cuckoo clock. I named the lady on the opposite side of my new friend, the beagle lady, because she owned a beagle dog. I named the lady across the busy main street Tina's because she had a dog named Tina. Before this, my sister friend's brother used to visit me and tried to get me to play with the garden hose, which he knew I was told not to do because I left it on once. I am sure they had something to do with the stealing of my song, Just Hold My Hand, because they had their son say he was afraid of trees. He said his father told him to ask me about it because he knew I loved trees. You see that tree outside my window?
It's my mother.
At night, it creates the shadow of a monster. And no matter how I look at it, it is still a monster. He said, that's what I mean. I just remembered that during the day, it is the same tree that I know and love, and I don't mind the monster. His half-brother had started to pretend he was his father, due to death threats against his father. That was the story they gave anyway. Another day, I had started school, and he gave me a big orange, came later. Another day, I had started school. My mother told me I would go half a day in the morning for half a year, but I would go half a day in the afternoon the rest of the year. And the second half of the year, I would have different teachers for different subjects. This is to get you used to a full day like it will be next year. Miss Pendleton was my first teacher. She was a tall, good-looking woman. We had naps where we put our heads down on our desk and reading lessons which I did not need. I could read when I was 3 years old. My mother bought me a World Book Encyclopedia and a working typewriter for kids. There was an aquarium which I was very interested in at school. My wife-to-be was in my class. November 5th, 1964, Julia was standing outside my church Sunday before services. Happy birthday! I know it's not your birthday, but my birthday was just 4 days ago, so it is my birthday. Well, I wanted to tell you on your birthday, but the teacher didn't think I should say it in front of the other students. So I have been waiting till today to tell you. What is your name? I remember you, but I have trouble learning names. I noticed you live around here. I live right next door with a friend of my mother's. She arranged for me to live here because she knows I like you. Should I say hello to him? If you want to. You don't have to. No, I will say hello to him, especially if we're going to see more of each other. Let me go in and introduce you. Well, so this is the